Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a super hands-on math game that gets your students not just doing math, but talking about it and thinking really deeply about numbers.
So, if you're a teacher, you know this struggle, right? You need your students to practice place value, but you want it to be more than just, quiet, heads down memorization. You want it to be meaningful, you want it to stick.
Well, what if we could transform that crucial practice into something dynamic, something engaging, something that's just filled with rich conversation? Well, that's exactly what this game is all about. So, let's dive in. Okay, here's what we've got on tap. First, we'll talk about why games like this are so much more powerful than a worksheet. Then, I'll give you the quick start guide on how to play. We'll even walk through a sample round to see it in action. After that, we'll get into your classroom playbook for making it work for you. And we'll wrap up with the big idea: playing with purpose. So first up, let's explore why a simple little board game can be a total game changer, especially when you compare it to those traditional worksheets. I mean, just look at the difference here. Worksheets, they often boil down to memorization. They're static, the problems don't change, and it's usually a really independent, quiet activity. But games demand reasoning. They're dynamic because every roll of the die changes everything. And maybe most importantly, they're conversational. They create this natural space for students to actually talk through their mathematical thinking. And that right there, that's where we're building skills that go way beyond math class, like how to defend an idea or explain a really complex process.
Okay, so how does this all actually come together in the game itself? Well, the best part is, it is so simple to set up and get started in your classroom. And you don't need much to get started. Just a standard six-sided die, a counter for each player, like a bingo chip or a little eraser, the game board, the cards, and some paper and a pencil so they can work out their answers. It's really one of those low-prep, high-impact activities we all love. Okay, the rules are super simple. Let me walk you through it. Players pop their counters on start. They roll the die. If it's an even number, they move one space. If it's odd, they move two spaces. Pretty simple. Now, if you land on a blue space, you've got to convert a number from standard to expanded form. If you land on yellow, you do the reverse. Get it right, you stay where you are. Get it wrong, you've got to move back to where you were before. And the first player to land on or pass the finish line wins.
All right, this is where it gets really good. Let's actually watch how this plays out in real time. We're going to walk through a quick sample round, and you'll get to see how this simple little game can spark some truly fantastic math talk between students. So picture this. You've got two students. We'll call them Student A and Student B. Student A goes first, rolls the die, and gets a 2. Since that's an even number, they get to move their counter one space forward on the board. And that single space lands them right on a yellow block. So, according to the rules, that means they have to draw a card from the yellow deck and solve the problem. And this is the card they get. The challenge? Take this number, all written out in expanded form, and convert it back into standard form. You can just see the gears turning in their head, can't you? So student A takes a second, and then they start talking through their thinking. They don't just spit out an answer. They break it down. They say, okay, I noticed. They identify the whole number part first. Then they tackle the decimals, and this is the key part. They point out why a 0 is needed as a placeholder. And you see that? That is the magic right there. And here's the other brilliant part of the game. Instead of a teacher checking an answer key, student B jumps in and asks this great question. This little bit of peer-to-peer interaction, that's where the deepest learning happens. It actually pushes student A to explain their understanding of place value even more clearly. So student A explains that since there wasn't a term for the hundredths place, it had to be a 0. And you know what? They are absolutely right. The answer is 673 and 507 thousandths. So because they nailed it and could explain why, student A gets to keep their spot on the board. The turn was a huge success, not just for the game, but for their mathematical learning. Okay, so you see how it works, but how do you actually bring this kind of awesome engagement into your classroom? Let's look at a few really practical ways you can implement place value race. You know, what I love about this game is just how flexible it is. It is perfect for your independent math centers or for partner workstations. You could even project the board and play it as a whole class review. Or, hey, send it home for some fun practice that families can actually enjoy doing. And, of course, you can easily tweak it for all your learners. For students who might need a little more support, just start with the whole number cards. To ramp up the challenge for others, you can add more complex decimals or even throw in a 30-second timer to add a little bit of fun pressure to each turn. And if you really want to take the learning to the next level, you can use discussion questions like these after the game, asking students how moving a digit changes its value, or what strategies they used. That encourages them to think about their own thinking, and it solidifies their understanding way more than just getting a right answer ever could.
Which really brings us to the big takeaway here. This isn't just about having fun, right? It's about playing with a very clear, very important educational purpose. I love this quote because it just says it all, doesn't it? Math should be played, not just practiced. When we let our students actually play with numbers, they build this incredible fluency and number sense that rote practice by itself can never, ever achieve. So the real question is, are you ready to see for yourself? Are you ready to watch your students' faces light up as they stop just trying to memorize place value rules and actually start connecting them to real meaning? Thanks so much for watching.